if people still getting them. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this. I don't remember the name of this. The talk after lunchtime is has a special name. Mash told me, then I forgot, something like a Death Valley or something. So I will try to wake you up in some ways, because I think I'm talking about something. Something tricky here. My name is Alberto Brandolini. If people don't know me yet, usually I put sticky notes on the wall and I try to do stuff with that. But that's not the thing that I'm talking to you about today. Today I'm talking about, I'm going to start from this book, which is, how many people here read this book? Still not enough. Good, but not enough. And it's a book about DevOps, lean software development, and it's a book about that started as a scientific statistics research. Nicole Fosgren has a PhD in statistics, and with the collaboration of Jess Samble and Jim Kim, who are, you know the guys, a lot from the DevOps space. And they wanted to make a survey. They wanted to collect numbers. They wanted to get out from the anecdotal space that also Simon Brown was mentioning. Like, we do things. They might be working, but it's very hard for people like me, which are consultants, to make sure what was the secret ingredient, the only ingredient that is guaranteed to work, because we are always polluting the experiment. So we needed science. We needed more scientific exploration, and they made a large-scale survey in the software development world to look for things that were actually working. So what is science saying? The first result, unsurprising, is that things like DevOps are actually really working. And just like the value of adopting DevOps is even larger than they initially thought. And the most important thing is just like the gap between high and low performers continues to grow. Let's see some of the numbers. This is the way they define DevOps as a practice: frequent code deployments, fast lead time from commit to deploy, fast recovery from downtime. Yeah, server goes down, but yeah, it's up again and nobody noticed. And lower change failure rate. And this is the numbers. And up to 46 times more frequently, up to 400 times faster lead time. I mean, 400 times faster. And I mean, it's a lot. It's not like, oh yeah, you're slightly better than me. We're not even doing the same job. Okay. This message was actually intended to go to the management, not only to developers. And so the management reacts in the traditional way, which is, well, DevOps is working, let's hire DevOps. And how do software developers react? Like, just go on LinkedIn and add DevOps somewhere, so problem solved. But yeah, that's more or less the phase of history we are in. But DevOps was not the only topic, and this research was way more interesting in some other places. So let's look at some of the buzzwords here. Like talking about microservices. Did microservice has an impact on the global scale and software development, or in software-intensive organization? And well, somewhere in the middle, because the microservices are more frequently adopted between high performers. So yeah, probably on the good side, but not so much significant differences. And yeah, there's some correlation. And my summary, just like microservices by themselves are not enough. It's just like, oh, we're doing microservices, so the company is going to get better. No. This might be part of the problem, which is this is an extract from a conversation between me and a Danish colleague, Yappe. And he said like this. We were having dinner together, and one of the key moments was during a microservices conference, somebody asked, OK, who's doing event-driven? And he was me, and oh, I'm the only one. And this is a microservices conference, and that was kind of an embarrassing moment. And this is coming from another person, an Italian software craftsman, that told me, wow, that's my market nowadays. A lot of companies are asking me to coordinate microservices deployment. repeat this sentence in your head. I mean, this is total nonsense. It's just like they were intended to be independently deployable. And then, oh, well, yes, but we were joking. We still want to coordinate them. OK. So now I'm starting to see some similarities here. Like, if you remember this guy, like, microservices are just like SOA. What he really meant is actually this one. We screwed up SOA. We will screw up microservices exactly in the same way. So history will be repeating. And I guess this is kind of scary for a lot of reasons. So one of the conclusions we might draw from this little experiment is just like the technology was not the driver for success. Well, surprise, we probably knew it already. But there was a good differentiator that was loose coupling. So loosely coupled architecture was actually a good predictor of success in the organization. OK, that's a good thing. And also, I guess some of us should be kind of puzzled because ideally, microservices and loosely coupled architecture were supposed to be more or less the same thing. But not exactly. There's a little mistake here. There's something that doesn't click here. So the thing that I see, the anti-pattern that I see all over the place is actually this one. I will turn my monolith entity into microservices by just isolating the customer table, promoting it to an entity, and then just putting this one on the cloud. OK, somebody's taking a picture of this one. And it's, if you just taking one lesson for survival, I think this one is already meaningful. So let's be more explicit, a little bit less comic-driven, just like the path of entities to microservices, I think is one of the greatest threats to humanity. Like, if we can still refactor in safe way inside the monolith, because the IDE is helping us a lot. But if you start splitting in the wrong way and migrating things into microservices, well, good luck with the refactoring. And my suspect is you will never have the chance to do that refactoring because sunken cost fallacy. You don't want to look like the stupid person that went to microservices and then said, like, OK, sorry, we were joking, and probably you already ran out of budget. So I guess the only solution is, well, global warming is going to kill us all anyway before that. And third ingredient is, by reading the book, was culture as a key factor. It's not just about the practices. Well, the practices by themselves were not making a difference, but the culture inside the organization was a kind of big predictor of possible success. And they started describing what they call well, it's already the established name, the Western classification, which is pathological, power-oriented, like, yeah, do this, I told you. Bureaucratic, rules-oriented. If you've been working in government or insurances company, a lot of bureaucracies, that's how we go. And, well, generative was the good predictor. Like, means like you can have ideas. Well, that's free will, human beings, fantastic. You can make experiments, and, well, if it works, that's going to be a good thing. Not like following the rules, but, yeah, let's try, let's change the system. That was a good predictor of the system. But, well, culture is not exactly my space, so I won't go that deeper with this one. But it's also, the thing about the culture for me was, yeah, this is where the thing gets weird, is because whenever we get into discussion about, oh, you know, that's our company culture, and it feels weird. So let me show a couple of things about culture bullshit that I detected in a few places. So when people, as developers, but not only developers, just like they start talking about culture, basically what they mean is just like there's nothing that we can do about it. We can work on the software design, we can work on testing the code, but changing the culture, well, it's not my job. I cannot change the culture here. I really hate, maybe it's a strong feeling, but that's how I feel, when people use the word mentality. Well, you know, that's a mentality. And in this country, in this company, well, that's what we do. And it feels like an alibi for not doing stuff. Like, well, this stuff will never work here. And the other thing that I would like to talk kind of against is the idea that culture is an independent or orthogonal problem from other concerns. I think all of this is simply not true, and I would like to take a look at it in a different way. So, again, as I said, I'm not an anthropologist. I am a software person. I used to be a software developer. Now I only code when I'm traveling, so sometimes without the ability to use Stack Overflow. So it's not exactly my job here. But talking about culture, I cannot give you a good, precise definition, but who cares? I'm an engineer, so I just need an actionable one. And here's my definition of culture. Culture is a cumulative effect of a winning behavior within a given context. Something that works, something that people see like, okay, well, me too. And if the example is winning, imitation, then you see the swarm effect, and then you can call it culture. I mean, it's really, really rough and simplistic, but I don't care. I'm an engineer. I just need something that works. I will give an example. Let's talk about bus ticket. And this is a bus, more or less the same type of bus that used to be in Bologna, where I did my university. And, well, it's orange. In Bologna now they are red. But anyway, and it's not beautiful, but I haven't seen beautiful buses in my entire life. But there's a few things that we can say about the bus here. Like, I remember at that time, there was during the university, when you do a lot of stupid things, a friend of mine was deciding to make a survey, so again, science. And the survey was actually more running like an experiment. For 1 year, I'm not paying the ticket. And I want to know if this is a viable way or not. I want to know if it's more expensive to pay the fines or to pay the ticket. And after 1 year, well, he actually realized that it's cheaper not to pay the bill. Not to pay the ticket, because he was caught only 3 times. He got fined, paid the bill, and then like, oh yes, I'm still saving something like 200 euros. So yeah, end of the story. Why is that? Well, a few things were happening on this type of bus. Like people were coming in from every doors, because we wanted to speed up operation, like Italians do when they jump up and down a bus. And you were supposed to have your ticket already, yeah, that's more or less the list. You can purchase a ticket in shops and vending machines somewhere, multiple entry points, easy to jump on without a ticket. You just like get in and you're assumed to have the ticket, so you don't have to show it, except when the controller is appearing on the bus. But we knew the controller faces. I mean, there was a guy with mustache and another guy with a beard, and we saw them from long distance. So yeah, there were many, many tricks for avoiding them. So in general, cheating on that type of bus was for low-risk gambler. We had nothing to lose, and it ended up in, well, actually was the one paying the ticket, but my friend finished the whole year and said, like, no, actually pays off, science. Then you travel and you go somewhere else and realize that, oh, you can actually design the place in a different way, where you can only, you are forced to do this. You get on the front door, you put the ticket in if you have it, or you buy a ticket if you don't have it. Or even more advanced, this is taken from the Netherlands. So the buses in Amsterdam, they have a second person on the this is actually a tram, not a bus, where he can make the ticket. And it was funny, one evening, we were just running to catch a tram. We were jumping on the front door, which was not the door we were supposed to use. And we were getting to the center to make the ticket. But the conductor was already saying something like, "Gentlemen, the ticket, please." So there was the pressure of calling us gentlemen, so respectful. But then we had something like 20 people looking at us, and so we were morally obliged to do the ticket, to pay the ticket. We were doing it anyway, but yeah, this scenario was kind of different. So let's see it. The payment on the bus enforces a single entry point. We can only get in the system by one door. On this door, we have eye contact with the conductor. Like if you want to do like, I'm not paying the ticket, is an explicit act of rebellion. And if I don't pay, then the whole bus will look at who's this idiot not paying the ticket, slowing us down. So cheating is clearly an action for losers. What's the difference? I mean, can you call it a culture? I call it the result of design choices. So what I'm extracting from this story is we might have design choices that define interaction that will shape the culture. And it's kind of an obvious thing in architecture, in the buildings way, and it's not that obvious in software architecture, but this is exactly what we're doing. So I'm going to give you an example of the previous definition also about can you be a winning example? Have you been here? Am I the only person in my team doing test-driven development? This is actually, if you're the only person in the team doing test-driven development, you're probably not a winning behavior. You're probably spending a lot more time writing your test, your code, and then cleaning up your test and your code from mistakes that other people were adding to your code base. If you're not protected, you're not a winning example. Or, yeah, my tests are frequently broken because I'm the only one running them. You get a commit from a friend or a colleague, and everything is red. They don't run them, so they don't even see it's red. So you're the person complaining about other people breaking their test, which is like if you were the first person not smoking, you're not necessarily winning behavior at the beginning. I remember that. I thought like, well, everybody's going to appreciate the fact that I'm not smoking while the other guys are. But no, it was not really that fun. It only happened once we had a soccer game, and suddenly I was the only one still running while everybody else were yeah, just like kind of dying on the field. And I was expecting, well, now I'm going to be the top scorer of the tournament. No, all my friends quit playing soccer altogether. That was the last match. The bastards. Anyway, so I had only one chance to score in my entire life in soccer. And was it a winning behavior? No, we had to create the condition for winning behaviors in this place. So I'm going to take in a little bit more actionable space. I want to talk about two really kind of simple, maybe even simplistic thinking tools that might be helpful in understand, okay, this is where we can get good things or protect ourselves or get in a place where good practices might actually turn into good examples. So here we go. Tool number one is what I call the pink check. And it's not about the color, it's about the author, Daniel Pink, that talk about motivation in this. This is a great book, but this is a fantastic video. So if you have the chance and if you look for a Pink motivation video, is, if I remember right, just 10 minutes, but a game changer. So have a look to that. And what Daniel Pink is saying, just like talking about motivation, the three main drivers for human beings being happy in what they do is autonomy, mastery, and purpose, and which turn out to be pretty close to the pillars of the idea of software craftsmanship in general. So I'm going to give you a few examples now. Example number one is, let's call them the builders team. That's a short story of a great team, one of the best teams in Italy. They had a great product. It was growing on the market. They had positive feedback loops. And yes, we'll see that. And the software was growing. What about the autonomy for them? Autonomy was, yeah, totally OK. It's just we built it. We know every corner of it. It's tested. They were free to do whatever they wanted. There's no questioning. They make the choices. Great. What about the mastery? Check, all perfect. They made a mistake. I mean, if you build a product from scratch, you cannot make all the decisions right, but they were in control. They kept improving. And the purpose, why do you need, you're building stuff. That's all we need to know. I mean, the stuff was useful. The customer were coming. They were getting good feedback for the people that were using it. OK, all matched, all set. Great team, test passed. Fast forward 6 months. Well, no, actually a little bit more than 6 months. But Still the same team. The company wants to build a new product. And for some reason, the company is also saying, well, instead of starting from scratch, that was beautiful. I mean, everybody was motivated. It was a great experience. But now, we gotta, reuse some assets, some knowledge, and instead of building everything from scratch, let's use this external platform that is gonna give us, some extra, time to get quicker on the market. Yes, that's what I thought. 6 months later, they ended up in this situation, like with that was the core of the software they were building on top of the platform, and that was not exactly a great scenario. So in practice, talking about autonomy was gone. So they started feeling like they got bug reports, and they look at their code because they felt responsible for their code. And the bug was not in their code. The bug was in the platform. But they couldn't solve it in the platform because it's an external platform, so they could only beg to the provider, can you please fix this one? And you have to wait. While they were waiting, they were trying to patch workarounds. You know the feeling. It's actually horrible. Autonomy, gone. Talking about mastery, well, the platform was actually suggesting the only way to get things done is hack the platform, make some workarounds, even horrible, and no, mastery is gone. What about the purpose? Purpose kind of was vanished away, and a lot of people stayed in the company because, like, well, still a good job. And, well, they were moving from the fun of building new stuff to, we are still building new stuff. No, that's just the job now. So one of the things that was interesting, this is maybe a little bit of an advice of people who are coming from a domain-driven design community, DDD, bounded context, independent models. They're not only independent models. The moment you isolate a portion of the problem space and you declare it to be a bounded context, a unit of consistent language, a single model with a purpose, but the moment you protect the boundaries, the moment you create a space where you can make choices, decisions, and eventually also mistakes, you also create a unit of clear responsibility. So in every project I was involved that turned out to be really, really a good experience, we basically had everything under control. The virtuous cycle was we had bugs. Of course, I wrote some horrible lines of code that turned out to be, horrible ideas in the morning after. But it was my code, and it was a bug, so I cleaned it up immediately. There was no other person to blame. The only person that could have introduced bug in our code, it was us. Since we thought that we were good developers, well, good developers clean up their bugs. So we were rewriting stuff, improving it, making error-proof, and, well, release after release, the code was rock solid. And then I moved into some other teams, and some teams were working on some other platform, and, it's not working. Yeah, it's always like that. And it's not our fault. What can you do? I don't want to work in this way. I don't want to work in this fatalism type of environment. So, and it was such a great difference. It's not only a way to architect good models, it's a way to establish a perimeter for responsibility for doing great stuff. If we are the only person responsible for quality, then the quality is going to be great, because otherwise we are idiots. But if we can blame somebody else, well, that's a different story. So it's the purpose ended up being one of the greatest drivers. The next picture is a picture of what I do at the beginning of projects usually. That's actually a snapshot of a large, big picture event storming, which is, for me, apparently a way to get a lot of understanding up front. Looks like up front is one of the themes today. And yes, we do this up front because doing it later, it's fun, but it's just like for picking places where people did something really stupid. But up front, it just like gives you a better, larger scale understanding of the whole thing, and also gives you the possibility of understanding which are the bubbles, which are the independent portion of the system that you can start treating as a bounded context. And that's something that is really useful. And sometimes those boundaries might help you. Sometimes the horizontal swim lanes might help you. But the second thing, or maybe the most important thing for me when doing this kind of exploration, is also checking at the business level or at the organization level, what is the purpose of the whole thing. What I see is a business narrative which is supposed to deliver value to somebody. And you might get into fantastic days when couple of projects in healthcare, when it was really clear that the value to be delivered is making people feel well, or you might also discover that there is not a clear idea of value, there is not a clear idea of purpose, and the only reason why people are working in this company is, to pay the bills, and then it feels like that's going to be a pretty lame party, so not exactly the best place. What I like to see is this one. A team with a clear purpose is actually a formidable weapon. If we can see what this software is for, then we can cut the right corners because we feel the urgency to deliver value, make the right choices, and be united a lot more as a team. That was the tool number one. Let's look at the second thinking tool that I'm talking about, which is the feedback check. And the other thing that I looked at, I always look, and never really formalized it, that's my attempt at it, is to look at the exploration of the feedback loops. Like, you're starting your project. How can you learn you're doing something good or bad? And we are in Agile, so we know that you get feedback from tests, you get feedback from demos and all this stuff, but maybe you don't have everything aligned, maybe you don't have everything in place, so you might want to explore and make some check on the landscape before starting. So understanding, how do we know we are making a good job? Is the product owner happy, or is the user happy, or is the world a better place? Who are we making happy? Who are the users? Who are the customers? Are we learning the right things? This is the most important thing, the last two. How does good and bad feedback arrive, the channel, and also the delay? How long should I wait for good and bad feedback? So let me get to example. The good side, let's see DevOps, how does it work? Feedback is coming from users, metrics, right after we release. So talking about DevOps is not about the tooling, it's about how frequently can your organization learn from their mistakes. So you have organization making 2 releases per year, and organization making multiple releases per day. And the insight are in the feedback. You're just getting feedback twice per year. How good can it be? And for DevOps, mistakes are removed quickly, lower cognitive load. I wrote something, put it in production, turned out to be a horrible idea. I know exactly what I've done wrong. I look at the code, yeah, sorry, now I know, roll back. But if you do it 6 months later, I have no idea what I was thinking 6 months ago. So the time needed to get back into the problem is also a cost. And then this feedback can actually get outside of the backlog box and thinking better ideas than the original plan. So why not? Little warning, feedback has business-specific delays. So if you are in pure startup world, and all you're looking at is the number of users that might be increasing quite quickly. But if you are in whiskey making, well, you can make a lot of experiments, but it's going to take a few years for the whiskey to deliver on the new experiment. So don't expect that speed in that market. So delay is part of the feedback cycle. And why is this important? Because there's another little, it's not exactly a law of nature, it's one of my mantras, which is the hotel room paradigm. I don't have a good name for this, but people won't improve a system if they won't stay around long enough to see the benefits. You're traveling, you get in a hotel room, it's ugly. Are you repainting it? No, it's only for 2 nights. Who cares? It's horrible. I will put it on Twitter, on Instagram if it is really, really bad, but it's not my problem. It's only 2 nights. The same goes for projects. Like, you want to do refactor, improve the code, how long are you staying there? Because you want to see the benefits. I mean, if you're good, the testing cycle is giving you feedback in short feedback loops, so maybe you do it on a daily basis. But some other refactorings, somebody's going to tell me thank you in 5 years. And you're expecting to leave the company in 2 weeks, so you're not doing that improvement. So why do I care about this? Because I can see this battle in a time versus time type of thing. So if the time needed to enjoy the benefits of a given action is longer than my life expectancy in the system, who cares? I'm not improving the system. Yeah, somebody else will do it. Not my problem anymore. And it doesn't always have to be short-term contractors versus long-term companies. Well, companies are doing stupid stuff by looking at end-of-quarter financial analysis. Or startups might plan about an exit, and the team is building a new product, and what about the technical debt? Well, somebody else got to pay it, not me. I'm getting cash, leaving you, goodbye. So this is shaping the problem space, so I have a look to this one. If I smell some people is planning to leave, okay, we have a short-term problem. Why is this important? I think this is important, again, same slide from the beginning, because this is all about feedback loops, and I gave you a gate. The conclusion, if you combine the previous one with this one, is actually tragic. If the feedback loop is too long, system would not improve at all. If you have a company where the feedback loop is, 6 months, and all the development team is short-term contractors, you just pay like crap. I mean, it's kind of law of nature now. Okay, so that was not intended to have you depressed, but that might be some homework for you. Try to look at the feedback cycles in your organization. What about refactoring, test-driven development, architectural migration, even getting a training. In some companies, they stop asking for trainings because it's so painful. I will get my training once I'm becoming a freelance, which is happening in 3 weeks. Goodbye. And so this might be part of this. That's another extract from real life. That's the boss that was actually CTO on the company saying, like, whenever my team asks anything, I always try to fulfill the request. Then he talked with the team, and they will say different version of the same story. It's so annoying to have a conversation about asking. Actually feels like begging. We only start the conversation when we are 100% sure that we're going to get a yes. Okay. Let's get into another example. And that's another real story. Large company, and this was their product development cycle. So they had product teams working on new features, and it was taking 9 months. After this job was finished, national teams started working on the local version for 6 months. Then site teams started working on the customization of the version for the installation. So the time needed from ideation to production was, sorry, my brain is refusing to make a calculation, 21 months. So, yeah. And when I saw this, I was actually drawing, when I saw it working, I told to the CTO exactly these words. I would never work in a place like that. And he said, like, no, that's exactly how it should work. Yes, but I would never work in a place like that. And I didn't know why exactly. I could not formalize. I was right, because some of the best developers actually quit the company the next morning after realizing this. And now I know why, because there was not a single chance that I could get a thank you, but let's see it in action. So did the team have autonomy? No, not a single team could deliver value independently. This organization was set up for blame game. What about mastery? No, doesn't matter. I'm probably not even in the company the moment the feature is shipped in production. So what about the purpose? Gone. even more, they were actually prevented from having one. There was not a single moment where they could see their software used. What is my purpose? Just feeding the next team down the chain. Yeah, not working. Talking about the feedback. To get positive feedback, on average, was 15 months to see, oh, the feature in production, to know that the feature was released, because seeing it in production was a different job. But no direct contact with the end user, only working on specification and releasing to a middleman. So a person whose feedback cannot really be trusted. Okay, let's see what happens with negative feedback instead. It could happen at any time, after release or maybe before, and it was, you don't even know why. So you know that there is a bug, but it's been the work and rework of three teams, so it's just like every time there is a bug, is a guaranteed blame game. And you have no idea about the reason, because it's not something that you have been doing. I mean, it's 15 months ago. What the hell was I doing at that time? Maybe it was a good idea. Maybe somebody else was messing up with things. And no, that was kind of horrible. So, and this is basic stuff. So even there's something that I learned talking about dogs. I mean, dogs, they do something stupid. Please don't take it like a comparison between developers and dogs. That's not the intent. I was reading something like, if the dog is doing something stupid, you can only use exactly this second to make a connection between the mistake and the punishment. Because if you find the stuff around your room and you want to, and you get angry at the dog only feels guilty, but is not able to make the connection between why is this guy shouting at me, he hates me, and it's not because of something that I've done. So actually the speed and the precision of delay, if you do it at the right time, I can understand why. But if there is delay, well, then why? So let's plot it. Let's see if this is the little tiny possibility of a little thank you 15 months from now. And this basically can be summarized like this one. I call it the reward deprivation system. For 15 months, there is not a single possibility of a person telling me, good job, Alberto. But all the time, I could have the possibility of random bad feedback for reasons that are completely out of my control, and this could happen at any time. And so this is my definition. This is Kafka-style punishment system. I have to feel guilty for something that I have done, or maybe not, and it was by design. Okay, now I know why I would never work in a place like this. Scenario number 2. This is happening in a bank right now, maybe more than one bank right now. Microservices architecture. My friends were designing a new service dependent on 12 external services. The customer specification, it has to be synchronous. And they said, like, the external services are completely unreliable, but they were required to provide an SLA. So you're supposed to guarantee uptime on synchronously, depending on 12 external systems, which have never been alive at the same moment. So pink check again. Autonomy, no. A dozen enemies. Like any single service could make me look like an idiot. Mastery, no, it's gone. Just like, will it matter? Even if my service is perfect, it will fall down for external reasons. So why? What is the purpose? The purpose was wiped away, survival. So if you are an expert with context mapping from domain-driven design, that's more or less the diagram. This is our bounded context, which is conformist to 12 external systems. Each one of them, it just looks like a risk. There was not a pattern name for that. Well, actually, this one might actually capture the situation pretty well. It's designed like this. Who is in the middle is going to take all the blame. Let's try to see the feedback check. Really low probability of working things. Like, you're probably going to throw a party the moment this service is working on top of the 12 ones. Again, no direct contact with the end user. Are we sick? What is the problem of having a conversation with a person and, again, working on specification and releasing to a middleman? So you might get the thank you might get a good job, but from a person you don't exactly trust. It's the same one that told us to be dependent on 12 services synchronously. And what about the negative feedback? Well, that's kind of obvious. Anytime, doesn't have a reason, after release, no control of the reason, always disconnected. So talking about the connection between, that's a lot of architectural choices and design, and the direct consequence of these architectural choices is fear. I would never work in a place like this once again, because it's just like getting a ticket to hell. It's just like you're randomly gonna get called by people angry for something that you haven't done. No, no. So that's the interview for this job. Yeah, will allow you to experience a continuous state of fear, anger, and guilt. Yeah, not to mention frustration, because it's never going to work, and despair. I'm telling obvious things, I have to admit, but on the sake of obviousness, it's just like one thing I learned by doing this job, it's just good developers are totally okay in paying for their own mistakes. Like, oh, sorry, I put the wrong version in production. I'm correcting. This happens without even asking. It's not like, yeah, I made a mistake, screw you. No, we are fixing our stuff. That's what we have been doing from day one. But we actually hate paying for somebody else's mistake. It's a completely different click. Still, it might be the same mistake. I did it. I will do the cleanup. I'm cleaning up for somebody else. So I think between the ingredients of a good architecture and a good team, and they're starting not to be so much different concept to me, I think the great ingredients is just like we have to design places, spaces where safety, responsibility, and pride can actually be ingredients of our design. If we can't have this safety, if we can't have a place where we have full responsibility and accountability, and if we cannot be proud of our outcome, well, bad things might happen. So let's get to the space where we can actually make decision, where we can design the shape, the layout of our bus. I think loosely coupled, the reason why loosely coupled was working is how much it can give in terms of autonomy. Like I've seen teams that they were forced to share some resources, and the connection was we have to run a lot of meetings for coordinating, for deciding what is the API between us and them, for deciding what is the protocol for changing stuff on the shared database or a shared service or whatever. The moment we share, the moment we don't draw clear lines between different teams and responsibility, we are designing a future of endless meetings and negotiation, something that we are not really good at, for something that we are supposed to share. And negotiation will turn into blame game when something is gonna be wrong. And how many externals are we depending upon? How is this affecting autonomy? Like, I want to make sure that this stuff is running. If I did everything right, I want to make sure that this is running. It's not something unrealistic. I mean, I think it's basic stuff. If I done everything right, like at school, I would like to have a good mark. But, oh, you've done everything right, but on top of a third-party provided paper, and the paper is ugly, so I give you a 0. No, that's not how kids are grown. And trade-off, how many are we supposed to take? Well, we hate trade-offs. I mean, they might be part of life, but one trade-off is okay. 2, 5, 6, well, then who cares? And then if it's who cares, I don't even care about the outcome. I want to go to work somewhere else. I'm not going to be around for the party. So let's get to the summary. Thing number 1 is easy. Buy a copy of this book. Buy 2, 1 under the Christmas tree for your boss. Second part of the lesson is everything is connected. There is not, I think, software architecture, organization design, and the ecology of a software team and the pleasure of coding are part of the same thing. There is not such thing like, oh, but this is a cultural thing. We are designing this culture. We are making choices which are promoting interaction, and some interaction are toxic and are the result of choices we have done in the past. Emotions matter. Like being in a place where you feel like you can get good feedback and little reward and pride. You've done a fantastic job. What you want to do? You want to do it more. Like people are happy about what I'm doing. I want to do an extra thing, like one more feature. That's great. One more use case. Why not? I'm just waiting for this because the last time I was doing it, it ended up great. So yeah, I'm ready. But if everything that I'm asked turns out into a blame game, you know, guys, I'm going to say like, we don't have time for this. For good reason or bad reason, I will say it anyway. And this is the same slide. Your architectural choice will, no, it's not the same colors only. Your architectural choice will shape interaction and culture. And you can design your own bus. You can find software organization, software architecture, software design that will shape the culture in your workplace. Talking about bounded context in the DDD world, we call them unit of language consistency. They're also unit of purpose. It's very hard to find the purpose in the investigation, so that's a little bit of a trick for us. But they're also unit of responsibility and also unit of pride. If we are the only one building software in that box, yeah, the software is going to be great because we are good, and the software is there to prove it. Safety matters. You cannot expect a good team to deliver good software if safety is continuously challenged. So it's part of our responsibility as software architects to look at the leaks. Where is the ceiling leaking water? Which are the dangers? We need to be in a safe space where bugs are not happening by surprise. And that part is the thing which is enabling good job later. The final recommendation, I'm sorry, these colors are looking completely different there from there, and so I'm puzzled. It's very hard to ask this one, but if you can smell that the alignment of the term, the life expectation of the company, of the management and the teams is badly misaligned, or that's a warning sign. So I think this is important and underestimated. Like you want to build your own garden, make sure everybody's thinking about it as a garden and not like a temporary dump. Most important of all is just, I think, like a great accelerator, kind of pooling everything else. If you can find a good purpose for the software you're working on, for the organization, for what is this for? Who are we making happy at the end of the flow? While that kind of start pooling everything from that. And this is also my last slide. And so that's a big thank you. There's something about it in those 2 books, but that's not the thing I would like to talk about. Do we have time for questions?
Sadly not, but thank you, Alberto.
Okay, I'm gonna be around for today and tomorrow, so I'm totally happy to get questions, and yeah, thank you.